Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, good morning. I'd like to first thank the organizers of this important meeting for the invitation to share our experience on the management of maritime space in Malta. The well-being of island communities, as we all know, is intimately linked with how the surrounding maritime space and its natural resources were used. Indeed, one may say that the history of our islands has been shaped by their location and possibly serving as a pit stop to ancient mariners. Over millennia, the significance of this archipelago served the needs of regional powers in the Mediterranean, transforming our coastline into a strong military defense system and trading post at the same time. When in the early 1990s, the government introduced new planning laws and a new policy framework for land use, it also called for the preparation of a coastal zone management plan aimed at capacity building, safeguarding coastal ecosystems, and at the same time promote a new maritime use, which at the time was aquaculture. The 1992 structure plan for the Maltese Islands did not include the geographical definition of the coastal area where the policies apply, and this placed a challenge on the policy interpretation. This action constituted the first national step to incorporate XXVIII principles in land use planning. However, since most of the development proposals have a marine component, a need was felt to amend the planning legislation itself to extend planning powers to the maritime space. In 1997, the Development Planning Act was therefore amended, and since then, any development proposal within 12 nautical miles of the territorial waters requires a permit from the authority responsible for spatial planning. In 2002, a coastal strategy topic paper was prepared to support the development of new strategic policy for the coast. This paper acknowledged that since the main threat to the coastal area arises from development pressures, it recommended that spatial planning be confirmed as the main instrument through which XXVIII is implemented in Malta. This exercise led to the definition of the terrestrial extent of the coastal zone and also confirmed that the maritime extent was up to 12 nautical miles. The proposed strategy was aimed to deter urban development from coastal areas that are predominantly rural in nature and directed urban development towards existing locations along the coastal towns. In the meantime, project proposals were still being processed within the same procedures as those adopted for proposals on land. Stakeholder engagement in policy making and assessment of development applications is enshrined in our planning law and has been undertaken on a day-to-day basis since 1992. In parallel, other instruments and tools such as environmental impact assessments, social impact assessments were also supporting decision making. It was in 2015 that Parliament approved our new strategic plan for environment and development, which for the first time addresses the maritime space at the same level as the terrestrial space, so both territories in one single document. Another important deliverable of this plan is that it extends spatially beyond the seaward limit of the coastal zone. Through this plan, Malta has identified potential opportunities for economic growth for new sectors such as research and development, while at the same time requiring that project proposals must support the successful implementation of both the EU Water Framework Directive and Marine Strategy Framework Directive. That is, they need to support the successful achievement of good environmental and good ecological status of our marine waters. Therefore, potential investors are aware that their proposals must not undermine national environmental objectives. With time, and in parallel to all this, regional action has been taken at a Mediterranean and EU level to introduce regulatory framework that supports the implementation of XXVIII and maritime spatial planning, as all of us know. We can safely say that Malta was not caught unawares, having adopted XXVIII principles since the early stages and building on the experience gained over time. Most of the requirements arising from XXVIII protocol and the MSP directive were already in place. The challenge arises when tackling transboundary aspects, for many reasons which most of you and all of us know. Most of the marine uses are of a national context and therefore the focus on data collection, operational procedures, and policy making is centered to service national needs. Knowledge and capacity building to serve the national function is already a big challenge. The transboundary element may also raise issues of a political nature that go beyond the scope, yet influence processes related to maritime spatial planning. Between 2017 and 2018, the Planning Authority worked with other partners in the Western Mediterranean on an EU-funded project, SimWestMed, which focused on the implementation of the MSP directive. One of the most fruitful experiences for us was working on the case study to address MSP issues in part of the maritime space between Malta and Sicily. With the help of our Italian partners, this brief experience enabled us to look at how the sharing of marine data can enhance existing policy framework for MSP, particularly through the adoption of assessment tools to identify cumulative impact assessments, cumulative impacts of maritime uses. Another task which we as an authority undertook was the evaluation of procedures in place to assess projects of a transboundary nature, such as the energy projects that are already in place between Malta and Sicily. Since the Planning Authority is also the competent authority to implement the EU regulation related to projects of common interest, we have found that those procedures adopted for that regulation may in actual fact help to support the implementation of MSP at a transboundary level when project proposals arise of this nature. Through the SimWestMed case study, we could appreciate the fact that the more a country is prepared at the national level in implementing XXVIII, which addresses also the maritime space, the greater the opportunity for that country to transition towards the adoption of MSP. It takes time. This has been a national process started in the early 1990s, and it is still ongoing. Capacity building is needed for both technical skills and also for governance aspects. Guidance document and exchange of experience at a regional level can help support the implementation of both XXVIII and MSP in terms of capacity building at national level, and in the long term, hopefully assisting countries to tackle transboundary aspects as well. The Common Regional Framework for the implementation of the XXVIII Protocol is one such document we are hoping could encourage greater uptake of MSP in the Mediterranean. As a final note, I would like to reiterate a phrase from the MSP directive itself. The implementation of maritime spatial planning should be an adaptive one. I thank you once again for the opportunity to share our experience and hope for further collaboration on XXVIII and MSP in the future. Thank you.